Chapter 4. Dr. Hayabusa leapt out of the monster's path. He fell to the ground. Scrambling to his feet, he unsheathed his sword. The beast stared at him. Its eyes rolled about on either side of its face. Its short, stocky legs stuck out of the side of its scaly body and curved down like a person at the top of a push-up. Slowly it approached, letting out a fearsome hiss. "Spirit, Ken!" Dr. Wimple cried out. Dr. Hayabusa walked backwards. He held his sword steady. "Come this way, Randolph. Walk slowly. It won't harm us. It needs to conserve its energy." Dr. Wimple obeyed. "How can you possibly know that?" "The creature is a Komodo dragon, Randolph. Until now, it's only been found in the Indonesian island of Komodo, having somehow survived extinction. As a cold-blooded reptile, it often sleeps in the sunlight, replenishing its energy. You can see that this one is a bit sluggish. At night, it will undoubtedly be quick and ferocious." Thank you," Dr. Wimple said, trembling. I shall make sure not to be around after dark." "But what a zoological find! The first of its kind discovery in the West!" Dr. Wimple nodded. "Fine. Well, we'll write a report. Now let's get out of here before we become lunch." They took off, scampering deeper into the jungle. The trees grew closer together, the brush thicker and thornier. Dr. Hayabusa used his sword to cut the path. They bushwhacked for hours. Under the afternoon sun, the jungle festered. The humidity practically suffocated them, and they had to stop every few feet to catch their breaths. Even Dr. Hayabusa was running out of steam. When they reached a clearing, Dr. Wimple flopped to the ground. "Siesta time," he said. "I don't care what you say." Dr. Hayabusa took a map out of his pocket. He studied it carefully. "If I'm not mistaken, Randolph, we're already at the—" "Ken, look!" Dr. Wimple shouted. Suddenly, his fatigue disappeared. He ran across the clearing to a strange rounded stone that stuck out of the ground. Pulling a spade out of his backpack, Dr. Wimple furiously dug around the stone. It was a large, flat tablet covered with intricate etchings. Dr. Hayabusa joined his colleague, and together they pulled out the tablet. They set it down, and Dr. Hayabusa began to translate. "All praise the great hero Shinobi, who on this day in Anno Domini 1290 confronted the powerful demon of the Temple of Darkness." "Shinobi?" Dr. Wimple interrupted. "That's impossible. How could a Japanese be in the Amazon 200 years before Columbus?" His eyes aglow, Dr. Hayabusa read on. "Having sailed across the eternal sea to find the land of forbidden mystery, Shinobi returned to the native land, guarding the secret of his discovery." "Eureka!" Dr. Wimple shouted. "Do you realize what kind of find we've made? My associates can carbon date this and make sure it's not a fake, and—" "The great Shinobi cannot bear to reveal the one shame in his life," Dr. Hayabusa continued reading. "His only failure as a warrior. When the demon's body lay bloodless on the ground, slain by Shinobi's sword, its power lived on. It continued the fight, unleashing the force of nature. Though Shinobi could not beat this invisible enemy, he fought bravely and divided the demon's energy into two, the forces of light and the forces of dark. Thus disabling the demon, he imprisoned the forces into two statues buried hereunder." Without saying another word, The two scientists dropped to their knees and began digging. It took over an hour, but when the shovels hit two solid objects, they were delirious with excitement. Dr. Hayabusa pulled out the white marble figurine, about a foot tall and shaped in a horrible hutch dragon. Dr. Wimple's statue was exactly the same, except it was made of black onyx. "Remarkable!" Dr. Wimple said in an awed whisper. "Does the tablet explain what happened to their power?" Dr. Hayabusa picked up the tablet and read more. "The demon will begin to wake at the time of the dark moon, approximately every 700 years. If the statue are at the same temple of the demon, they will join forces and inhabit the demon's body, releasing unimaginable power. The world will not survive, however. If the statues are not inside the temple, the demons will remain harmless." Dr. Hayabusa paused. His face was sullen. "Is that it?" Dr. Wimple asked. "Yes." Dr. Hayabusa looked at his friend in the eye. "The question is, where is the temple?" Dr. Wimple threw back his head with laughter. "Surely you don't take this all seriously." "What do you mean? We did find the statues." "Yes, and they're fine examples of pre-Columbian South American art, but it's obvious that nothing's here. Clearly, Shinobi's demon was a Komodo dragon, ancestor of the one we found. The rest, the pagan mumbo-jumbo, well, we should leave all the folklore experts." Dr. Wimple took off his pack and stuffed the statues in. Then he walked into the surrounding jungle, snooping around. But Dr. Hayabusa wasn't convinced. He paced to the edge of the clearing, trying to piece it all together. His toe stubbed against the edge of another stone. Gritting his teeth, he looked down at it. It was gold, and it looked like the edge of something bigger. He knelt down and yanked the underbrush off its surface. When he was done, a small, perfectly square stone stared up at him. On it were gold inlays, depicting some kind of message. "Amazing!" he called out. "I found an ancient grave marker, Randolph." No answer. Dr. Hayabusa turned around. "Randolph!" He walked around the clearing, looking around. "Randolph, where'd you go?" Creak! He stopped. That wasn't a jungle sound. Randolph Wimple must have found something else in the woods. But where? In the thick air, it was hard to tell where the noise was coming from. Creak! He felt the blood freeze. The sound was in the clearing behind him. He whipped around. Everything looked exactly the same. Or did it? Creak! It was the grave marker. His trained eyes detected the slight movement. An inner voice told him, begged him to run away. But Dr. Hayabusa walked closer. Screak! The marker slid aside, revealing a deep hole and 2 arms. A sudden blinding light bolt ripped through the jungle air. It flashed in the front of Dr. Hayabusa and sliced a nearby tree in half. Dr. Hayabusa flung himself to the ground. Where he turned around, his jaw dropped open. Standing in front of him was a creature. It was human, but only barely. Each foot had 3 enormous claws. Its bare chest rippled with muscles, and it looked like cast iron. Deadly sharp ram horns jutted out of the steel mask that covered its face. In its right hand, it held a sword, and in its left, a shield emblazoned with the letter J. And when it spoke, the ground shook. "Give me the statues," it demanded. "Not on your life, sheep face," Dr. Hayabusa said. The warrior thrust the sword. Its mighty stroke caused the tree to rustle. With a perfect ninja front roll, Dr. Hayabusa escaped the sword. He sprang to his feet. In one swift motion, he pulled his own sword and lunged. Clang! It hit against the enemy's shield. Dr. Hayabusa stepped back, waiting for the next move. The warrior dropped its sword. With a casual but powerful gesture, it reached upward. Dr. Hayabusa watched with eagle eyes. Crack! Another bolt of lightning sliced the sky. This was connected to the warrior's outstretched hand. Dr. Hayabusa stared in disbelief. How could this thing have survived that hit? It brought its arm forward. It pointed it. Yarg! Dr. Hayabusa took the full force of the electrical current. He crumbled to the ground. A freak storm, came a voice from behind him. Well, maybe there'll be a break in the humidity. Out of the corner of his eyes, Dr. Hayabusa saw Randolph Wimple emerge from the surrounding brush. He propped himself on weakened elbows. Run! He croaked, his voice raw. Dr. Wimple froze in his tracks. He looked from Dr. Hayabusa to the warrior. Ken! Who? What? Run for your life, Dr. Hayabusa croaked. And follow every step of the emergency plan F. Do you understand? But I can't just leave you. Dr. Wimple was cut off by another electric jolt. It drilled a clean hole through the tree next to him. Dr. Wimple was off in a flash. He had never run so fast in his life. Good riddance, the warrior snarled. Now give me the statues. Never, Dr. Hayabusa said, stalling. By now, Dr. Wimple would be 50 yards away, with both statues. Dzz! Another bolt made Dr. Hayabusa arch in pain. All right, he said. At least leave me with enough strength to open my pack. The warrior waited. With agonized slowness, Dr. Hayabusa removed his backpack. The longer he took, the farther Dr. Wimple would travel. He set the pack down. He fumbled through the lace. He removed the canteen from the top. He dumped the contents on the ground. Trail mix, 3 maps, a wallet, a camera, 2 lenses, a mess kit, and a compass. Nothing more. The warrior seemed to swell with rage. Veins strained at his chest muscles. With fist clenched, it raised up to the sky. A deafening boom shook the entire jungle. The lightning that struck the warrior's head bathed the area in the white light. When the flash was over, the warrior glowed. No one plays games with me, foolish insect, he bellowed. Prepare to meet a fate more unimaginably terrible than death. To be continued. Game hint. To beat Kerberos, get under the left podium and hit him with your windmill star when he's coming from the right. Then, staying under the podium, hit the other Kerberos with your sword or your star.